We all know the reasons corporate cultures suck. They're these lifeless places full of bureaucracy, office politics, and more meetings than actual work. In fact, I don't know anyone who loves working in a corporate company, but I do know plenty of survivors, people who've gone through depression, stress, and burnout, and who can now kind of live to tell the tale. So it's no surprise to me that when I'm working with founders as a culture coach, the one thing that they're concerned about when they're developing or growing their culture is they don't want to become just another corporate. Or as one founder once said to me, I really don't want to become another corporate clone. And if that's you, I want you to know something. That fear, that resistance, that instinct, it's a good sign. And in this video, I want to reassure you why not wanting a corporate culture is a healthy thing and how you can navigate growing intentionally without losing your soul. There's only so many times I can say that it's a good thing that you don't want to become this corporate giant. But that does not always ease the guilt that I see founders experience, as if they are not being ambitious enough, like they should be creating this giant, streamlined, hyper-optimized machine. They feel this kind of guilt because they're not aspiring to something that they keep being told they need to do. Because let's face it, when you have a business, all anyone wants to know from you is how you're growing and scaling and optimizing and creating standardization. All of these really lifeless, mechanistic words. And yes, those things matter to a degree, but not when they completely strip the humanity out of good work and turn your company into something that you don't recognize. To put your mind at ease, let's talk about some of the hard truths about the realities of corporate culture. They are built on centralized decision-making, meaning everything is really slow and really bureaucratic. There are rigid hierarchies, layers and layers of management, policies that are enforced from the top down and pushed onto people, and these cultures where they're really safe and sanitized and lack total personality or purpose. And while most of these corporate cultures can hand out golden paychecks and benefits and rewards packages that look like the Willy Wonka factory, we all know deep down that those environments are where people have very little autonomy and decision-making power. They are constantly fighting against office politics to make any kind of impact in their work. And they know that sometimes when they leave for the day, they haven't made an impact. All they've done is maybe argue and try to move their own work forward. We all know these workplaces aren't good for us instinctively, and yet it's really hard to default into kind of operating that way when you start to grow your business. And what happens is many founders end up recreating the very thing they've tried to escape. Now I want to share some signs with you that you might be becoming a bit corporate. So here is what to look out for. Decisions are still centralized, either around you as the founder or a small leadership group. You're adding policies and strict rules that are all kind of being mandated from the top down and pushed upon people. Management layers are appearing in order to keep control. The culture feels increasingly polished but less real. And meetings multiply, but autonomy shrinks. This all doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in quietly because it's the blueprint we've all been sold and been told that this is the way you grow your business. This is the way you operate your business. Those are the narratives that are in our mainstream business language. So don't beat yourself up if you start to drift into corporate land. It's the default. We've all been conditioned to believe that a business is a machine. And if you just hire the right people, create the right processes, design the right org chart, it will all just become this seamlessly smooth, efficient machine. In fact, 90% of business books sell this story and this model. Create the org chart, hire managers, streamline processes, control the inputs. But a company isn't a machine. It's a living system. And living systems don't thrive under rigid control. They thrive under clear structure and distributed intelligence. So I know what you're thinking. Well, Lizzie, if I don't have this rigid pyramid org chart and I don't have streamlined processes and managers, then what on earth am I supposed to choose instead? And that's what I want to talk about next. There are now so many different approaches and systems that are out there in the world that can support you in maintaining your existing culture, growing intentionally, and still ensuring that you love what you do. You can choose dynamic governance, you can choose decentralization and conscious design. The alternatives are out there, and it's not just because I'm a specialist in this area and that I am biased towards these systems. It's because I've seen how they can free founders to create something that is truly still impactful and intentional during its growth. With these systems, you get distributed decision making. People are given the power to be able to do the work that is most important. You get less founder bottleneck. Decisions stop coming all the way up to the top and having to take so long to filter back down. People have genuine autonomy and accountability in order to do meaningful work. And you have a culture that still feels wholesome and organic. Plus, you can scale without killing your culture or losing your soul. To name a few of these systems so that you can do your research, and I have covered some of these systems on this channel as well, you can look at holocracy, sociocracy, Semco style, NER, and Teal. These are all practices and principles that can help you to explore alternative systems and ways of working. But just remember, these aren't rigid blueprints where you're just trying to copycat another system. They're an invitation. They're a way of working that opens your mind to what you want to build, tools and practices and methods that you can kind of pick and mix to feel what's right for you. From my personal experience, when I've supported founders transitioning to this more dynamic governance system with distributed authority, I see such a change in their energy. Because so many founders will say to me that they're kind of like the outliers, the rebels, who don't really like rules or authority to begin with, and yet they feel kind of claustrophobic in these businesses that are very rigid and structured because that's what they've been told to do. Instead, the energy changes. They feel so much more alive, and the team feels so much more engaged and excited about the impact they're having. So the energy, even the energy shifts when we transition from this very rigid, blueprint kind of old-fashioned way of working into something that is far much more purpose-driven. I really don't think this is about being anti-growth. I truly believe it's being about pro-aliveness, pro-intentionality. We can grow. We have to ask ourselves why we want to grow and what we want that growth to look and feel like. So here's my invitation. If anything in you resists becoming corporate, listen to it. Don't silence it. Don't override it by buying a business book from a guru who's telling you to scale at all costs. Be wary of blind standardization. And maybe don't completely burn the org chart, but redesign it consciously. Because deep down, you know that there is a better way to grow. I believe the rebellion against soulless corporate cultures started long ago. And if you're building differently, you're not naive. You're part of the movement of founders who are designing a different way of working. If you want more practical insights on decentralization, self-management, or building purpose-driven companies, then don't forget to subscribe and maybe even send this to a founder who it might resonate with. But thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week.